First pick Ezreal on the side of ROX Tigers, who were blue. This time round, we'll see which direction they go. It is in actual fact G2 that banned out the Aurelion Soul.
Yeah, that's a little surprising to me. Maybe they thought Kuro was going to be able to pick it and G2 wasn't willing to burn a first pick on it.
Perkz has been one of those mid laners pretty outspoken against the Aurelion Soul. So I definitely know that he does not want to play against it. I'm pretty sure he hasn't put too much time in on it, although all of the mid laners here have at least dabbled in these champions, right?
And I always like seeing what the adaptations are from week 1 to week 2 of Worlds. These teams had 3 full practice days after the last day of group stages in order to try and prepare some new champion picks. And already we're seeing a lot of stuff banned. In this game that we saw last game, that's now 3 bans from their last matchup.
Definitely true. You know, the Ezreal we just talked about, targeted here as well, taking that off the board for Prey. And then Olaf. Trick was amazing on Olaf in their previous matchup. Definitely one of the reasons that G2 had such a large amount of control in the early game, going bottom very quickly, getting both summoners, getting kills off the bottom lane. That's how G2 really snowballed that game.
So week 1 told me to look for 2 things, Syndra and Nidalee, and there's only 1 ban left. I wonder what the target's going to be from the ROX Tigers if those 2 are still high priority after week 1.
You got Syndra, you got Nidalee, you even have Elise. Elise was right underneath Nidalee as far as junglers go, and if they don't necessarily care about the hard farming of Nidalee, it didn't lead to very many wins last week because of a high priority that was on CC. It's really hard to say what the first pick's even going to be.
Yeah, if I am still hyper-focused on the early game, oh wow, the ganking power of Elise actually valued over the quick farm of Nidalee. That would be very surprising if they did lock that in.
Yeah, well, when I was rewatching some of the ROX games, they found almost all of their success on Elise, and when CLG beat them, it was with Elise and the Kennen band. I feel like Smeb's Kennen and the initiation, plus the Rumble is what Smeb played in their win against ANX. I think they're trying to deny some of these picks, but guess not. They can still pick Rumble at least if they want to, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yep, quick pick up there for Nidalee. That is going to give them that early game speed, and we'll see what Trick can actually do with it. Trick has been one of the guys that focuses very heavily on farm, and we'll see if he can get that early level lead that we're used to seeing with Nidalee. Your Kennen point is definitely valid as well. After that single play, probably even. Smeb's Kennen gonna be very rough for them to get a hold of.
Thing is though, Trick, despite his playstyle throughout all of summer being very farm intensive, he's currently got the 4th lowest CS numbers at 15 minutes out of all the junglers, so it hasn't showed up in week 1. A little bit of a surprise here from ROX. It's a Caitlyn Alistar early pick.
The Alistar is something I really do want to jump in on quickly here because that has seen some of the biggest turnarounds for teams here. CLG won with the Alistar when they came back. Flash Wolves won with the Alistar when they came back. Having the playmaking support has been huge for these teams. And up until this point, Gorilla has been one of the supports that has not picked a melee champion, to be that one with the go button.
And specifically, this is a spectacular synergy with the Caitlyn and the Alistar. In lane, they can layer the Caitlyn traps with an Alistar Pulverize, and out of lane, Caitlyn is one of the most self-sufficient AD carries when Alistar wants to make roam plays. This is one of the big reasons that ROX lost to COG, is because Stixxay and Aphromoo used these champions against them to such success.
Intelligent adaptation here, I believe, from ROX. Definitely on board with that. Mithy's been one of the guys that really loved that Tahm Kench and jumped on the playmaking ability of it. The mid-game Tahm Kench ultimates very early on. But G2 locking in a little bit of an old school here. That's a lot of wave control, actually, with the Sivir Braum lane.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very comfortable lane for G2. And because there's already an Alistar locked in on the other side, they're not looking like they're going to struggle in this. I think they're mainly trying to make sure they can match tank roam by picking a tank support of their own.
Also, if it does come down to the mid game, which is G2 have really struggled, as you transition from mid to late, having Braum helps you protect your minion waves, and having Sivir helps you destroy enemy minion waves. So it gives you a lot more tools to deal with the mid-game trading of turrets. And when you're trying to, clear out a 1 wave, could mean the difference between having 5 people at a team fight or only having 4 and not being able to react.
Hopefully that'll help G2 out in terms of the mid-game because ROX Tigers have got a terrifying duo now. Lee Sin and Rumble. Lee Sin over Elise in the jungle. For Peanut, gonna throw his hat into the ring and see who's gonna be the best Lee Sin here at Worlds.
Yeah, both the Lee Sin and the Elise have pretty strong early games in this particular case because they already had the Rumble in the top lane. I think they're just trying to make sure they have somewhat diversified damage aside from also wanting the playmaking of Lee Sin, as we're most likely seeing a magic damage mid laner as well.
I do love it as well with the Alistar. There's a lot of playmaking ability when you look at jungler and support combos because these are so important nowadays, especially if you take into account whichever mid laners they have because the support and jungles have been very, very important in controlling the vision. Scuttle crabs plus the wards around mid lane have really been done a big part in determining the way that the early game does go.
A bit of a woo there for the Victor. Is that what we're afraid of?
Yeah, I mean,
Victor into Cassio as well.
It was super quick. I feel like these picks are basically just to shove out the lane, and Kuro was kind of the Victor before Crown was the guy that always played Victor. This used to be the champion Kuro would just main. He was one of the first players to really bring it into the competitive play. And locking it in here when they already have a lot of supplemental CC, I think is a very strong pick. And this is the type of ROX Tigers team composition that can shove in lanes, still team fight well, and have playmaking that I'm more expected to see coming into Worlds.
We'll have to find out whether or not G2 can improve upon their week 1 performances. There's nowhere to go but up for a team that went 0-3, but it feels like a lot of short range. And also, expect on this Poppy, it is the first time all summer that he's played the champion. Pulling it out in week 2, pulling it out when your back's against the wall. Obviously, Youngbuck and No-Face shaking hands. It is a tough task for G2.
Yeah, the Poppy is really going to challenge their playmaking ability and expects ability to communicate with the rest of the team as far as TPs go, because that's where Poppy shines.
Feels like a little bit of CLG-esque in that way, maybe looking to make a play else from the map. Ladies and gentlemen, jump onto Twitter. Let us know if you think the European LCS will pick up their first win in week 2 with a vote, #G2win. Or like the crowd in San Francisco, are you with the #1 team from the LCK and voting for #ROXwin? Let your votes decide. Jump onto Twitter. Because the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium is definitely in favor of the LCK against the villains of Europe.
I have to say, there's so much pressure on G2 right now. This is what it all comes down to. This is their chance to turn everything around. You know that no team has ever in the history of the World Championship gone 0-3 in groups and made it to quarterfinals. G2 would be the first team to ever accomplish that if they can win all their games, and they have to start now.
And it's such a daunting task because not only would they have to go 3-0, that only gets them into a tiebreaker.
Exactly.
So if they want to make it out of groups, they actually have to go 4-0. But if you're going to start somewhere, why not start with the tournament favorites against the ROX Tigers, who they had a chance to beat last week?
Very, very tough task. Smeb on Rumble had a phenomenal performance last week as well.
Gotta respect the Braum, level 1.
Smithy moving in, that's an exhaust. G2 are looking for first blood. Smeb flashes over the wall. Like a javelin toss, but that is Summoner Spell down already.
And that was quite tight. I mean, you can short that flash over the wall. One more auto attack. Smeb had to get just close enough to the wall so he could get 50% through it. And gets out just in time. Last auto didn't land, so he was over the wall.
Like the adaptation from G2, though, sending the early roam up, trying to make a play at level 1. They noticed that Smeb was probably likely in that tri-brush in a lot of different games, and they had the team composition to make a sneak play. Exhaust for a flash in Smeb's lane, I think, is very beneficial for G2.
That heavily impacts Rumble's laning, because Rumble's one of those champions that auto pushes, and this is one of the matchups that, you know, G2 and European fans were most worried about. Considering Expect and Smeb's levels coming into this, that is definitely a big summoner spell for G2 to get out early.
And this makes us pay even more attention to the early jungle routes. Both Peanuts, Lee Sin, and Trick's Nidalee are starting on the top side, but you could see a modified route from Trick. If he does 3 camps on the blue side, he could then loop up towards the top side, and they could try a dive. Considering the Poppy is a playmaking champion with flash up, they could get a nice wall stun and just go in there.
The other thing is that there is a ward here as we pan down. The G2 invade also got them Vision of Peanut. They know exactly where he is on the red buff. They have the exact time as well. So Trick is very well informed as to where to adapt as far as his early jungle routes. And he's just going to keep on power clearing here for Nidalee.
And Trick is one of the guys with all the pressure. Nidalee, one of the top tier picks of week 1 as G2 now will be playing Arbusnox later in the day, not right now, of course. And we caught a glimpse of the masteries down bottom. Gorilla running Ignite on his Thunder count. A lot of aggression in lane. That's a champion that's 8-1 throughout the course of week 1 of Worlds. And Gorilla, I want to keep an eye on him.
This is what we were talking about, though. The quick 3 camps going up. Expect does have flash. They want to hit Smeb backwards. That spear missing hurts.
Skill shot missed. Sidestep from the trap. And Smeb's going to continue to get ran down. Very good flash pin. But that needed 1 extra summoner spell to secure the kill.
And that's the thing. I'm actually extremely disappointed in Smeb for pushing up that lane because we were able to call that gank from the minute Smeb burned flash. So Smeb should have been able to smell that coming if he's lauded as the best player in the world. Difficult death there for Smeb.
It does really hurt, you know, as Rumble to have to bite that bullet and not shove your lane early, because that's how you play the lane. But man, you just have to do that sometimes. If Peanut's not going to be up there in time to protect, and you know that Nidalee clears faster and will be the first jungler up there, it's just a hit that you have to take because you burn that flash.
And if you're not willing to take the hit, Peanut needs to go up there as well, just to help shove the lane with you. But they just didn't pull off the coordination. They got greedy, and they pay the price.
So, good capitalization there by G2, punishing ROX right after their level 1 invade. And again, an early start, early lead for them.
Take a look at the minimap. 2 wards placed deep in the G2 bottom quadrant. Trix just walked over and has been pinged out by Peanut as him and Gorilla moved into place division.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of value in Peanut being able to do that, but he didn't actually steal anything, so I still think Trick is ahead in this matchup.
I do want to note that because Smeb played it that way and he didn't sacrifice CS, you can see he's still up in CS over Expect, but Expect was the one to actually land the killing blow and get the first blood money, so he's actually not hurting at all.
Somebody else who's not hurting, Kuro, got his hands on that blue buff. Down bottom, Trick showing his face in the lane, but fairly optimistic as he's forced to back away.
And Trick is going to be showing his face in a lot of other places here. You can still see 3 wards within the G2 jungle. So even if ROX didn't get first blood, which they have failed to get in all of their games at Worlds so far, they are still acquiring deep vision, and they're going to need to use that in order to pull some type of advantage off. That's why they would pick Lee Sin, is to try and get some early pressure going.
He steps on the trap, uses that unbreakable as Trick once again shows his face, but this is good pressure. Flash forward, Trick bounces away, red buff is on, here comes Peanut, javelin toss forward, Perks is running out of mana, not gonna get the kill, Trick goes down!
Perks either ran out of mana or thought it was going to kill him with the poison, but that is a massive misplay there by G2 getting super aggressive and giving a kill over to Peanut.
You can tell the hesitation there. When you're doing a risky play like that, diving between turrets, both members, jungler and mid laner, have to focus on the nearest target, and they split. All right, look at here. Trick obviously wants to go in, trade the flashes. That is good. He could back off right there. As soon as that tower actually hits, Trick is going to die, so Perks tries to go for it, but the shield from Kuro after the Q.
I went back and checked. He did not have enough mana to cast another Twin Fang, but he would have wanted to cast the auto attack. With that being said, since Kuro cast his Q, I still think that shield would have saved his life, so I think Kuro was safe regardless of whether or not Perks turned away. Still, a dive gone wrong.
Yeah, definitely just a risky dive there for G2. ROX get right back into it. Even gold now.
Trick once again looking to repeat up top. Smeb, no equalizer, but got his flash available. Couple of pings there, so Trick.
And level 6. At this point, Smeb could 2v1.
Oh, javelin toss. Actually Expect knocked him with the heroic charge just out of range. Down bottom, double knockup for Gorilla. Sven's running low. Summoning heal flash is still available for him, and a potion. Sven's gonna ricochet to clear the wave and back out.
Critically on that top side, they did get Smeb splash out of it though. Here comes Lee Sin from their own jungle. G2 can't overchase again. That was a good job. They tempered their aggression around mid this time.
Yeah, and thinking all the way back to that top lane gank from Smeb, I don't think he needed the flash. I saw his player cam right afterwards. It looked like he realized he didn't have to do it afterwards as well.
He had already dodged that spear, and the charge had already not stunned.
And Trick actually looks a little frantic in the jungle right here. A low farm Nidalee 6.5 minutes into the game. He's been spending almost all of his time in lanes going for gank after gank, and he hasn't really been that successful aside from the very first try.
Well, he's going to try alleviate some of that pressure. Perk's got a small minion wave advantage over Kuro, and Expect still even in that matchup against Smeb. Obviously the kill under his belt, but big importance down bottom. Prey slowly pulling ahead here of Sven and Mithy.
Still have all summoners up for the ROX bottom lane here, so maybe they will get a summoner out of this, but it doesn't look like they'll be able to accomplish too much with the straight lane gank here from Trick. Now, revisiting that mid move though, you know, one of the biggest strengths of junglers like Nidalee and Elise, who can go ranged as well, is making those early trips to a turret where you're bullying the enemy mid laner, and your small advantage could just come from forcing them off that turret. They could have just denied that whole minion wave. You know, when the spear did hit, it got a little bit antsy going for the dive, and they weren't both quite 100% in on it, so they definitely lost out. Peanut, though, gets the blue and kicks his way out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one. The move to go mid wasn't a flaw by Trick, but it was just the aggression that was shown afterwards. And with that, it definitely feels like he is getting really scouted out by ROX, and he's being very obvious about his movements. When you're doing low percentage ganks like that on Nidalee, good junglers will punish you, and that's what we see there with Peanut taking away the blue buff, denying Perks.
Gonna have to track Trick and how he continues to pull up, because last week he had one of the fourth lowest jungle proximity with the rest of his team members of all junglers here at Worlds. It feels like he's gone the complete polar opposite, spending most of his time in and around the lanes. Gorilla's going to take a little bit of poke here, and look, Trick, once again, hanging out in the mid lane, right near Perks.
But I have to say, we're being super critical of G2. They're still up 100 gold because that first blood play was so impactful. Expect is still on pace against Smeb. Perks is 14 CS against Kuro, and that bottom side is going to be hitting their item thresholds to be able to farm later. So G2's still in position if they can make the right plays.
Ooh, this Expect does have flash, and Kuro does not.
Oh, Kuro's pinned against the wall. Should be able to get a Chaos Storm down. Grounded. Expect gets rooted up. Throws down the hammer! And they trade 1 for 1. Expect just took far too much damage.
Absolutely. That was a strange move there as Expect got stunned in the gravity field. That's going to happen when he flashes in very early.
Teleport by Smeb also was used in that play, so they'll be lacking that
Great
pressure
stun against
from up top. Yeah, so they wanted to pressure before Kuro's flash comes back up. They do get the kill, but man, Kuro, presence of mind, puts down his gravity field as he's going down, does get the counter kill, and ROX Tiger still gets some gold out of it. Very, very close game here.
It's very scary for G2 because they're going even at 10 minutes. ROX Tigers, remember, their average gold deficit was around 2,500 gold at this point from last week. This time around, G2 is even, and while that is a, they're not losing, it's scary when you know how good ROX Tigers are in the mid to late game.
Yeah, they have been good in the past in the mid to late game, but they've also been pretty good in the early game, and we haven't necessarily seen that here at the World Championship. For all the things G2 has been able to do, and actually the plays they fumbled, ROX Tigers hasn't done that themselves, and here they go.
All right, Glacial Fisher goes down. Gorilla's the target. Unbreakable Will is up, still has his flash. Flashes away from the pounce, so let's get themselves one summoner spell or a support ultimate.
And again, they're using this Nidalee as the range jungler to bring pressure to the lanes that already have control. This is what they want to do at the mid lane and not go for the dive. You pressure the turret, try and force them off of some CS, get some turret damage. The first blood on turret is still available. That first gold is a big cash-in as well, and G2 are making a lot of headway both in mid and on the bottom turret. So if they take it a little bit slow and methodically, then they should be able to cash in on that without having to risk lives for the kills.
Yeah, not to mention they burned the defensive summoner spells of Gorilla and have a teleport advantage in the top lane with the playmaking Poppy. So if they want to repeat that gank, they still have another 2 minutes or so to try and do so. And they have the wards to have a Poppy flank TP in the backside. Would not be surprised if we see that play from G2.
Window of opportunity slowly closing. And G2 need to clean up their play because the 2 times we have seen those dives happen, G2 have given up more kills, which they shouldn't have.
The thing with that, though, is G2 is actually making a lot of good plays. It's just a matter of getting the execution down. They are so active on the map. This one could go very wrong.
This is scary indeed. 4 members of ROX coming up to the top lane. Equalizer's been used. Keeper's verdict. Boots Smeb away. That's a decent disengage, and those summoners blown to make it out alive.
Yeah, you have to respect the support roams. You see both bottom lanes recalling, both melee supports immediately heading up top to try and make a play. That's actually quite good for ROX, though, because they just want to use up more time until Smeb's teleport is available again. They would like to fight around top side where they can't run into that extra man advantage you're talking about.
And they also want Kuro to be able to hit a few items and upgrade that Hex core before he's going to be able to be super effective in the team fights. Victor does want to just shove out the lane for a while. I'm actually pretty impressed that Perks has the 17 CS advantage on him, and I'm still impressed with the idea of a lot of these plays that G2 are doing.
Ooh.
But they seem so frantic still.
You can tell. The nerves are there. I mean, this is the highest pressure game that they've got left. They have to win in order to continue on.
Yeah, and then they have to keep winning. So there's no room for error here. G2 still going even, 12.5 minutes in. No real interest at the Dragon. It is that Cloud Drake, so slightly longer time before teams focus it. And there seems to be kills or towers. That's what they're looking for.
And Perks, with his marginal lead there, has hit the first item power spike with Abyssal completed and already stacking that tier. Right now, he does feel very confident in the mid lane. Does not have his ultimate, as we just saw him try and use it defensively, but the cooldown is fairly low. Ooh, this is a good move here from from Trick, actually, on the Nidalee. Hops over the back of the Drake wall. There's a ward that does see it, but he's burning through it too quickly, and Peanut is on top side, so that should be a Drake steal for G2.
Yeah, even without having the right vision control, they should still be able to get it no problem, and that's just a timing thing. The recalls were all back for the ROX Tigers, and props to G2 for making another proactive play.
I actually love that play. They set it up because you would expect them to be handing off blue, and the Tigers stole away the last blue, so they know the timer. Yet Cassiopeia is one of the mid lane champions who can't get it without assistance, and so they grab 2 objectives at the same time, with Peanut just waiting in the darkness.
Baiting. He spotted Peanut out, and you can see Trick hanging around. Perks actually used his trinket to spot Peanut earlier.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart play from Perks, actually. Top lane had called missing. Trick had even been there to heal him up to full because they were thinking a dive could be coming. And Perks made that check before the minion wave had come to his turret. So it was actually the perfect time to prevent the gank, and it ends up burning some time from ROX.
Those are the calm calls that G2 have been missing. That was a pretty good, mid-game advantage that they have just manufactured for themselves. Now we return to the mid lane, since Perks, wearing the blue buff, having his Abyssal Scepter completed, feels very confident right now. G2 should continue to fight around this member. He earned a little advantage for himself, then they continue to fight around that area, and this is the point of power that they need to work off of.
Take a look at those items as well, Kobe. Caulfield's Hammer plus BF Sword for Sven versus Hurricane and BF Sword for Prey. Mid laners continue to power up. Spirit Visage versus Leandri. So everybody's starting to hit those first item spikes. That's where things could get scary if Smith gets a good ultimate.
Yeah, I do actually think the ROX Tigers item spikes are more powerful at this particular point in the game. There's still no Essence Reaver on Sven because he hasn't finished his call as of yet. And the Leandri's Torment is pretty much the dream item for the Rumble.
And that's exactly what Smeb's going to be looking to use. It was Smeb's ultimate last week that really destroyed G2 and secured the game. But look at this focus around the Dragon. So many members parting it.
And that's the problem, right? Because of G2's intelligent play with the blue time spawning, same time taking Dragon, even though Smeb has his power point, even though he's teleported back up, there's no Dragon to force it down bottom. So it'd have to be some kind of skirmish. You have to really clear out the wards and the side brush down around bottom right now, because that... Ooh, here we go!
Oh, down in trouble. Glacial Fisher goes out to buy some time. Mithy fancies a little bit more poke. Heal and Flash still up, and here's Perks as well. Petrifying Gaze, that locks up Peanut. Trick splash forward. G2 are looking for more. Peanut's running for his life. Teleport's coming down. Smeb's going to be able to equalize the fight. And Expect, I think he may have cancelled. Expect decides to stay top.
Yeah, that's going to make a bit of a strange moment right here with Rumble in the bottom lane and a bunch of summoners burned. This could actually be the first turret.
Equalizer is available.
It's a scary Flash double knockup equalizer. G2 are down. They get rooted. Gorilla's looking for more. The tower's being focused, but Expect has been left uncontended. But it's 4 versus 1. It looks like ROX should do this.
They don't respect the Alistar pick. G2 don't back off. They decide to try and defend it, even with top laner's disadvantage here. Now ROX are going to get the kills. They should also get the turret first, as you said, and mid lane is also pushing. Kuro is even going to get that turret before the bottom lane.
That's the break that ROX Tigers have been waiting for, and this is more like the ROX Tigers we're used to, with the 10 to 20 minutes making the big plays after they hit their first item power spike. That was gorgeous from ROX.
Alistar pick highlighted so much yesterday, and or not yesterday, but through the last week of group stages, and Gorilla here not hesitating at all.
Both flashes up for Mithy and Sven, and just too quick.
Yeah, it was so fast, and that's one of the big reasons we've been seeing the Alistar success so far. Worlds here is just the setup CC he gives for some of the big damage dealers.
And you can't be surprised by that play. Both of them standing right next to each other, so the flash headbutt pull does get 2 members, makes it an easy equalizer, and only Nidalee was split off and able to move his character, so a pretty easy cleanup there for ROX, and now they have something that they have not really had so far here at Worlds, which is control of the game in that mid game, and now we'll get to see what they do with their vision to try and take over into the jungle.
1,500 gold lead, 4 kills to 2, 2 towers to 1. ROX Tigers just absolutely dominated G2 in the early game, and Gorilla and Peanut, they're double teaming, placing some vision, slowly being cleared out, and that is of course because Dragon's up in a minute and a half.
Yeah, and the worry now for G2 is the fact that Trick hasn't been farming the way you're expected to on a Nidalee, and is really far behind as far as items go. You'd expect the Nidalee to be a half item ahead of him at this point, and look at the deep control ROX have within the jungle.
That vision I just mentioned being set up by ROX Tigers, they capitalize on it, and they're going to chain turrets. This is a very, very steep hill to snowball on.
And it's a snowball that ROX are pushing at full speed. complete vision control. Both turrets down in the bottom lane. And ROX are starting to back away. This was more of what I was expecting to see from ROX Tigers throughout the course of week 1. And they've been going to back away, set themselves up some further control. For G2, it now has to come down to expect. Finding a good flank, finding a good Poppy ultimate, and breaking up multiple team fights for G2.
Exactly, finding the right team fights and having perks in the right position to give a large amount of DPS, but it's going to be really difficult, mainly because of the lack of vision control and how ROX is now laser focused around the right objectives. The deep vision line they have within G2's jungle, 15 seconds until the next strike is up, but uncharacteristically, they're actually without a teleport top laner on the wrong side of the map, and Kuro's getting a little poked out.
Well, Perks uses his Ghost to force Kuro away. 3 seconds to Ocean Drake.
G2 should rush it.
Sven's pushing in the bottom lane. It feels like that's what they're trying to do.
If they've been timing their teleports properly, they'll know that Smeb can't actually make it down, so they should be taking this Drake no problem.
Seems to be the case. Frey and Gorilla hanging out in the river, but ROX Tigers are backing away.
Yep, Smeb's heading back to top lane. You can see him go up to the minion wave. They're going to try and trade that Drake for the turret instead.
But it feels like G2 want to take a tower as well. Multiple pings on that bottom outer. Sven will pick this one up. The rest of G2 is somewhat meandering around the mid lane, and Peanut may find a way in. Perks, no Ghost, has flash, and there's pressure on multiple sides. Flash for flash! Petrifying Gaze is turned away from, and Gorilla is able to get out with his life, but that is a great exchange, because it was a pulverized headbutt, rather, from Gorilla.
Yeah, the overall exchange is heavily in the favor of G2 because they trade an outer turret and still get the Drake with no congestion. And this is kind of the tragic thing about G2's story at Worlds here. They have so many good ideas, but they just haven't been able to string them all together to actually find a victory.
I'm going to try to pull back this 2,000 gold lead. Javelin's coming in from the side.
Remember, Smeb's teleport now is available, could join this fight as they try and kite back to a proper teleport location.
Decide against it for now. 1 or 2 wards still behind the G2 line. And G2 looking to defend once more. Just very good play. We've gone over 20 minutes. ROX Tigers have got great control of the map, despite 1 or 2 small sort of timing errors, maybe, in terms of like the Dragons, for example. You know, their backs earlier, their teleport. Now, that's what's allowed G2 to at least get the Cloud and the Ocean Drake. We'll see how important that turns out to be. Because I don't know if the game will go long enough for Elder Drake to matter.
Yeah, especially with the way ROX have some playmaking potential with the Alistair, but it's still just a 2,000 gold game at 21 minutes. Team composition-wise, you'd want the Nidalee team to have a little bit of a gold lead in the mid-game, but they still have some giant scaling coming in with Cassiopeia and the Sivir, so it's not like this game is over now.
Not over now, but I think that the biggest problem G2 are facing at the moment is the fact that they did lose all their outer turrets very, very quickly in succession there. Having no mid turret really takes away a lot of your mid-game playmaking, because the ward line, which sets up those mid-lane plays, is very difficult to get since ROX still have theirs standing. Even though you'd love to have, you know, this Poppy teleporting in and having a Poppy with flash teleport to get the team fight started out, you know, you can change the numbers of entire thing. You need the wards to be able to get that teleport in the right position.
And right now, Perks a little bit of trouble. That was Gorilla looking for a flash pulverize. Didn't find the target. Perks used his Petrifying Gaze earlier. And also, Trick, he's just picked up Rod of Ages. 22 minutes? That's going to be some time. Sven's in trouble. Flash and heal are available. Spell shields the Sonic Wave, and ROX, they're pressuring the inner turrets.
Yeah, no flash on Gorilla is very good for G2. Buys them a little bit of time, but pushing up against the turret, you actually don't even have to worry about flash. You can get right into range.
Oh, Perks takes himself an Electro Harpoon, Glacial Fissure. That connects onto Prey. Gorillas throwing down the Unbreakable Will. Traps come out. Expects, teleported in from behind. Gets a 2-man knockup with a verdict. They've got themselves the cow, but Expect goes down in reply. 1 for 1, and G2 are running away. That choke point was so deadly.
Yeah, I like the teleport in from Expect, but you could really see the zone control of ROX right there and the relentless turret pushing they're going to have with this Caitlyn.
Kuro's victor here with the lasers, the gravity field. Very, very good gravity fields and lasers as far as the placement is. Really controlling those corridors. Plus, they had a minion wave already pushing top, so they just rejoin the minion wave and almost get through the inhibitor turret.
They might just take it. It's down to 200. Perks is in trouble. Petrifying Gaze is up, but doesn't find a target. And the base is opened up at 23 minutes.
Yeah, and it was in a greedy objective try there by Trick to run top lane. I think if they had him, they could have defended the bottom side turret, but they thought they'd be able to hold off with the Sivir. And thinking about that team fight a little bit more, you can kind of see how much trouble Sven will have to really get involved with these fights. Mithy
forced to flash. Ace in the hole comes down. Mithy's backing away. This is bought enough time for Trick to now come and attempt a flank, but this is messy and risky and troublesome. A 5-man ROX unit. They're grouped up in front of G2.
Down all their
Sentinel.
ultimates, though. It depends the number of poke that G2 can land and if they can get the right angle on them.
Expect fancies his chances. Stun on Takuro. Needs one more auto. Trick and Expect
no.
gets bounced backwards. This should be them going down. They kick backwards onto Expect. He will move towards the pit. Heroic charge onto the scuttle crab. That gets Expect to safety. No more deaths for G2, but they were toying with their lives.
What a hero scuttle right there, allowing him to taxi out of it, but there's the ultimate, and Sven has to flash as well.
Still not over. ROX Tigers now killing the minion wave in the mid lane, potentially pushing forward. That was 4 minutes of siege, and ROX maintain absolute control.
Discipline there from the Tigers, getting summoner after summoner out of G2 as they kite away. You can really tell, especially Kuro's experience on the Victor, really shining. Constant gravity fields, almost all of them getting flashes from the enemy or finding kills in the turnaround. And Tigers, they also walk away with a decent amount of deep vision in the blue quadrant of the jungle. As we transition into the late game, we're looking more and more towards that Baron side, and the pink wards to try and clear out.
Yeah, and pay a lot of attention to Prey, Kuro, and Smeb in these team fights and how difficult it is for Sven to get anywhere close to it, because even though they had a great pick in the jungle there, Smeb just had to turn on his Flame Spitter, and Sven couldn't auto-attack. Not to mention the Gravity Field, not to mention the Hurricane Caitlyn that's going to be coming in with a Rapid-Fire Cannon, most likely as the next item. It's looking pretty grim for G2 right now, based on the items and the way these team fights are playing out.
There's a potential fight being set up. 10 seconds till the next dragon. ROX Tigers 5 versus 5 as G2 are now peeling down in the river towards the pit. No equalizer for a few seconds longer for Smeb.
Definitely good for G2. They were able to get that Scuttle Crab control before the Tigers are able to move into the river, but they're coming very quick with vision equipped.
G2 was split up. It looked like Sven was going to push down the bottom lane. Don't think he did the greatest job. Ace in the hole, we blocked off here by Mithy. Perk's the only member of G2 with a flash. And Expect is playing on the side lanes.
Respect the Alistar. This is something that G2 have failed to do in the early game.
Peanuts on the flank as well, looking for targets.
And it's really interesting how ROX is cheating over towards the Baron side and maybe giving up the pathway for G2 to go to Drake. It almost feels like ROX is trying to get that middle turret more so than G2 is trying to get the Drake.
They did just lay down most of their wards in the Drake area, gaining some true sight around here, though, which makes it very difficult for G2. If you toggle the vision right now, the ROX Tigers completely taking control of that river area, and you can see how risky it would be for G2 to walk in.
It was the back and forth. ROX Tigers did run away towards the Baron side, but then looped all the way around, and because of the vision denial, G2 wasn't sure where they were at.
G2 back away from the river. They've got a big minion wave pushing in the top lane. Reminder, if G2 do not go 3-0, not likely to make it out of quarterfinals. Right now, down a 3,000 gold hole at 26 minutes, feeling like they're being pulled in too many directions.
They really are. ROX is playing the map extremely well, and they have very good vision control throughout. Not to mention, they have stronger initiation than G2 have. Whenever G2 try to initiate, even if they can get a pick on one person, they can't get their damage through the rest of the fight. Lee Sin can kick people back, Victor can put down the gravity field, Alistar can headbutt people away. There's just so much that ROX can team fight and peel with.
Both teams are fairly balanced compositionally, and G2 do have a decent amount of tools to work with as well, with the Braum and the Poppy. Pretty good zoning, but they have not been able to get these fights, for the extra vision. All their vision now is purely defensive, and they're kind of waiting on the Tigers to make a bit of an overextension into their jungle and split up a little bit.
Well, that's something that G2 have done many times already this game. Slowly getting some more power. Eye-Edge closer and closer for Sven. Mithy eats a Sonic Wave, but Peanut decides not to go in on the support, saving his kick and his ultimate. But Baron is absolutely the area that now G2 have to set their sights on. The blue trinket's coming up for Kirk shortly, but they're playing very far forward.
There are a decent amount of wards surrounding G2 as well. And Gorilla has Flash, the all-important Alistar Flash. Huge playmaking ability here from him, the possibility. Oh, spell shield down.
It's been a while since we've fought too, since all summoner spells are up right now. Also another thing to keep in mind with the top lane matchup.
Whoa! Peanut found Perks, and Perks splashes backwards. Petrifying Gaze finds nobody, but Siphon Power does. Peanut gets a pick, and now ROX Tigers 5v4 for 40 seconds.
All eyes on Gorilla, but Peanut's the one comes up with a huge play, and they're not done.
No, they're not. Trick is the target. He's going to get equalized. Smeb is flame spitting down. Mithy's going to get out with his life for now. ROX Tigers get the prize tower they set their sights on. And what is next? Will it be Baron?
It very well could be. Perks is still down. ROX Tigers can now get the vision control when they're trying to run towards this. That would require some pink wards, though. It's going to be really difficult for G2 to defend this. Mountain Drake makes the Baron much faster.
30-minute Baron attempt on the hunt for spin and flash.
This is the pressure on G2 now. Are they going in?
Keeper's verdict. Flash away from. Peanut in the pit. It's picked up by ROX. But what can G2 do? Trick is looking for Gorilla. Expects the one that gets the kill. Prey's left alone. He should get stunned up and taken down. Javelin toss won't connect. 2 kills for G2. They've got a small window to play with.
Expect came up huge, but Trick didn't go into the pit to try and contest the Baron smite. He went for the kills. They've got 2 of them.
Kuro not going to get stunned. Expect decides not to use his flash. Smeb's equalizer, quarter the cooldown available. G2, they're trying to push forward. That's a decent interrupt on Peanut. But Expect's going to back away. And a 3-man ROX. They're pushing G2 out.
It's insane that G2 is like this. Perks has been sitting in the middle of the river while the other 4 people on G2 are pushing mid. If he was there, I think they get the mid turret. And ROX narrowly get out of that one with the Baron.
It's not done yet. Peanut's going forward. I think he
stole it in his face. I can't believe it. So we're going to have to see a replay of that Baron contest there from G2, but that play, I can't expect any more from my top laner. Expect gets 2 people out, stuns the jungler against the wall, but Trick is going for the kill on the support Alistar with his ultimate available instead of going with Expect to try and contest that smite, and that allowed Peanut to get it off in time. Yes, they did get an extra kill, but the possibility, especially since he got the smite last time they went for it, a little bit disappointed.
Exactly. Calm under pressure and figuring out the right play has been where ROX has been able to get their edges against G2. That Baron play, while it was later in the game, eerily similar to what happened in game 1, but both times, ROX was able to come out with the upper hand.
Peanut just so cool under pressure, smiting another Baron, even when flashing red. Not worried about his life, worried about the objective for the team. And still lived.
And this allows ROX even more control, extending the gold, extending the kills. Got a few minutes of Baron available. G2, they have to scramble. They've got a few big items, Void Staff and IH Mount for Perks and Spin, but it simply might not matter.
They're so late to this turret as well. Expect just in base, they lose the entire thing.
That one's already down. 0 contest from G2. A couple of skill shots being thrown out. Expect is being zoned away.
Yeah, and Smeb is already on the other side because that turret's been down the whole time. G2 doesn't have very good initiation right here unless they teleported in from behind with the Poppy, but then they'd be afraid of the zone control from ROX, so they're just kind of taking poke.
Sven is in trouble. Sonic Wave delivers Perks to the team. Petrifying Gaze stuns nobody. The verdict sends out only Kuro, but it's not enough. Mithy's already dead. Ace in the hole almost kills Trick. Inhibitor number 1 falls. Inhibitor number 2's already down. And ROX Tigers, they're looking on the Nexus. G2 need to defend. This is for their tournament lives. G2 trying to push out. ROX Tigers, 5-man stack. But they've got to deal with the damage dealers of G2 and minion wave slowly pouring into the base.
Yeah, and every once in a while in this game, you get glimpses for why ROX is the tournament favorites. Those moves to try and get those 2 inhibitors were just so smooth and without hesitation. Kicking back Perks, making him feel out of position, then layering their CC and damage spells to make it so G2 couldn't properly enter the fight. The easiest double inhibitor take I've seen in the wild with such a minuscule gold lead. Yes, it's 5,000, but that's not your overwhelming lead that normally allows you to do stuff like that to opponent teams.
So clean, and ROX Tigers take another Dragon Ocean to add to their mountain. 6 minutes till Elder. They won't even need that, but it's another safety net if their next few pushes don't work out. But that's simply not something that has happened to ROX. They pushed and they found nearly every objective they've set their sights on. Improvement from them from weeks 1 to 2.
And now G2 looking at a very, very difficult defense. Gorilla and ROX are already equipped with the tools to dive their last remaining turret. There's going to be constant pressure from the top side with 2 lines of super minions streaming into the base. Frey very happy on Caitlyn with the 3-item spike plus Mortal Reminder coming in. They're fully equipped to walk down bottom and finish this game out by the numbers.
Yeah, and you can already see Smeb prepping the other minion waves. You want to make sure you have super minions crashing while you're assaulting the next turrets. I think Smeb will also approach from a little bit of an angle just to make sure he can kind of flank the damage dealers of G2 if G2 try to initiate. This could very well be ROX's final push.
The one thing that G2 really could count on to try and get this, there are a couple wards still behind that ROX Tigers have not gotten. If the Poppy teleports behind and gets some miracle charge on the back.
Teleports behind, also all the couple people out. They'd have to go. There's the teleport.
Teleport being channeled, Expect's coming in from behind, but what will we anticipate? Expect puts a steadfast present. He's looking for Kuro. The Glacial Fisher into Keeper's Verdict, but there's no damage follow-up. Perks can't find a target. Kuro's on a killing spree. Sven follows. There's no DPS for G2. There's no more tournaments for G2. Expect's running away. He's not going to get burned just yet. 2 members of G2 are dead. ROX Tigers have super minions pushing to the base and a massive minion wave down bottom.
G2 had to try, but ROX knew that as well and were absolutely ready for that initiation. No one gets stunned up against the wall. They layer their equalizer after G2 have initiated, and they win the fight handily.
The 3rd inhibitor is the target. Expects trying to push away Kuro. Super minions are on the Nexus base. The European chances, the European champions, they're falling apart. There's nowhere left to go. Perks is on the front line, dodges an Electro Harpoon, flashes the second. Nexus turret number 1 is down. ROX peel away from the kills. ROX Tigers turn onto the Nexus, and the ROX Tigers eliminate G2 Esports from World 2016.
And while it's rough for G2, that's exactly the way ROX wanted to start their day. It wasn't a total stomp, but they were never substantially behind in this game, and they executed their team play in the mid and late game to achieve victory.
And with that, the Tigers are the first team in the group to really establish themselves at the top. They've broken that tie for now until the next game, which is coming up very shortly. 3-1 now from them, though, sitting at the top.
And that, of course, means G2, they cannot advance. They cannot advance to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
One of the next 2 teams has to pick up a win, meaning they mathematically cannot make it out.
Very disappointing for G2, but they can still make other teams disappointed. That will have to be the motivation for G2, is trying to play spoiler to either North America or Albus Nox Luna.
Also just trying to show up.